Alrighty, we're in on round one, and I am waiting on my opponent for just a moment. So while we wait, let's talk about what we're up against here to start off the tournament, and it is going to be a rough match. I am just going to be fully honest. I cannot say I'm particularly optimistic about this matchup. I've done a bit of play testing, bracing myself for this matchup, and I think my opponent is going to be able to just kind of go over the top of me. So we'll go over what my opponent has cooking, and then we will go over what I'm looking to do this match to try and skirt past what my opponent has going on. So my opponent is Epid. They're on Naya Stompy. Uh, this is 1-for-1, the deck that won the November 2023 Eternal GP, the second Eternal GP, the one prior to this one, 13 months ago. Card for cards, there are no cards from the three sets that have come out in 2024. This is really, I think this is, I could see this being just sort of a like picking the easiest deck without having to really figure out the format. And sure enough, in playtesting, yeah, this deck absolutely does still slap. And this could be also making a power play of like thinking that this deck doesn't need anything that has come out this year. And honestly, from playtesting, I hate to admit it, but yeah, this deck really does not need any of the stuff from this year. So let's go over it real quick. We've got playsets of Symbol of the Revolution, Crystal Lion, Elvish Witness, Codename Viridian, Elemental of Surprise, Justiciar Overseer, and Wilderkin Behemoth, as well as two ofs of Speaker of On, Cyber's Clan Arbiter, and Mikal the Anointed. Something really important here that is going to give us a lot of trouble is there are 10 different 2-mana plays that can get our opponents to 4 mana on turn 3 to stick a Wilderkin Behemoth, which through our entire 75, we have no targeted answers for. Our curve is deliberately really low, and as a result, this thing has hexproof from our entire deck. So, beyond their 34 creature base, they have 3 Ferocious Flames and 23 lands, primarily a setup of 6 basics, 4 new divides, 3 luxurious estates, 3 of each green dormant land, and 2 of each green fast land. So green, a very important color to our opponent here. Their curve is very much centered around 2 and 3 mana threats, with that 4 and 5 up at the top end. The biggest concerns I had when initially bracing for this match were Wilderkin Behemoth and Mikal. A removal has a really hard time dealing with Wilderkin Behemoth and Mikal, whereas the rest of their deck does get hit by a removal pretty consistently. We have Dishonor, which kills anything they've got going on at 1 or 2. Like even if they try and pump up Symbol of the Revolution so it survives Dishonor, that just really wastes their time because this thing dies to state-based actions as soon as it stops being a rebel, which is going to happen between turns. Crystal Lion, even with a counter on it, dies to Dishonor. Speaker of On dies to Dishonor. Same with Elvish Witness, Cyber's Clan Arbiter, Elemental of Surprise dies to Dishonor once its buff wears off. Justiciar Overseer dies to it once it's immediately. And then the only issues are Viridian does not die to a single Dishonor, and Dishonor actually makes our future non-creature, non-equipment spells cost more because she doesn't care about who attaches the permanent to Viridian, just that she has permanents attached to her. So she's actually a case where Dishonor becomes a bit of a liability. And in playtesting, that is absolutely something that is relevant, that has a high likelihood to come up because this card is very good. I suspect my opponent will be very often going for the lifelink gadget, and every time they go for the lifelink gadget, we are going to have an uphill struggle because the way I win this game is by killing my opponent very quickly here. Mikal the Anointed similarly going to cause us a lot of trouble by having them gain life. That last text, the prevention of sacrifice effects, is not going to matter against us. We have no edict effect. I opted out of playing Omen of Slaughter in this deck, so that is a boon for us. But Wilderkin Behemoth and Mikal are going to give us trouble if they ever hit the board. We only have one way to deal with each of them, and neither of them are super stellar. We'll get into that in a moment. As far as their sideboard goes, I looked over their sideboard, and quite frankly, I think the only things that are really worthwhile for them to board in are maybe the one Cyber's Clan Arbiter and maybe Henry. I don't think Fog Spearer is particularly great against us. I think Winterholm Herseer is really useless against us. It really just shuts down our fetch lands, but it could still be good to shut down our fetch lands. So maybe they want to take in Winterholm Herseer, but I think ultimately their main deck is really angled is really positioned well against us. Where even in playtesting and thinking about what they might want to sideboard, their sideboard plan is much clearer than ours, which is just, don't fix what ain't broken. Their deck is not broken at all. So we'll pivot over to the match here while waiting for opponent. So in this match, I mentioned Mikal and I mentioned the Wilderkin Behemoth. For Wilderkin Behemoth, that's going to be the one that requires a little pain for us to remove, and that is because the only way we have to 1-for-1 remove Wilderkin Behemoth is to block or have it block a Void Mist, get blocked by or have it block a Void Mist Prodigy. This is a matchup where we may very well wind up just having our Void Mist Prodigy sack something else, or maybe opt out of sacrificing altogether, just for the sake of having a 1/1 Death Toucher who can fight Wilderkin Behemoth on the board. They have very little targeted removal. Even across their sideboard, they have like next to no targeted removal. They have 3 Ferocious Flames, and that's it. Otherwise, they have Justiciar or Overseer, which is something that's really important. So as I understand how Justiciar Overseer works, when it enters, they get to choose a source of their choice, and then choose the target that damage is eventually going to go to. What that means is Justiciar Overseer is going to be able to make our Void Mist Prodigy hit our other permanents, and that's really bad. A lot of our things have 1 toughness, so Justiciar Overseer is innately just going to be able to have a lot of our things kill each other. So Overseer then becomes a 2-for-1, while leaving a 3/1 flyer on the board for 3 mana. And then on top of that, it maybe struggles a little bit against Smirk here, but otherwise, like, Void Mist Prodigy becomes a liability because they can use it to shoot Smirk and kill Smirk, or use it to kill Yeji, which is really important because Smirk and Yeji do something that most of our deck does not, which is that they dodge a baseline Ferocious Flame. Now, that's maybe not the most relevant because their Ferocious Flames, they do have creatures in their deck that can become ferocious. They do have ways to put a +1/+1 counter on their creatures with Crystal Lion, so they have a handful of 3-power creatures that could become 4-power to just enable Ferocious Flame in that respect. But that is something that's important, of Yeji and Smirk dodging their targeted removal with both Ferocious Flame and Overseer pointing 2 damage at something, and these 3 toughness bodies suddenly getting to do a little bit of work in that regard. Though we'll get into why Smirk is the less important of the 2 there in a moment. But yeah, Void Mist Prodigy, something we have to be very aware of getting this in play. And one of the other things that I think we have to be very aware of is they have 8 3-mana flash creatures, all of which are really brutal to attack into. Because they have the Justiciar Overseer, because they have the Elemental of Surprise, that means that we have to be very prepared to put on early aggression and then pull back and grind as hard as we possibly can. I think one of the scariest things about this matchup is we have to put on the pressure when we can, where we can, and we cannot let them get in. We have to do what we can to hold our ground and force this into a value match. And that's where I'm terrified, because their top end will blow us out of the water if we let them. So again, Void Mist Prodigy deals with the Wilderkin Behemoth. How are we dealing with their 4 of Mikal? We do have a way to remove 5-mana 5/5s, and that is to become Ancient, 8 or more total lands in our graveyard and battlefield combined, and then cast Succumb to History on Mikal. It's not a super comforting plan, but it's the plan we've got. Yeah, this is not a great feeling here. I wish I could be more confident about Succumb to History, but I think it really is just not quite enough for us in this matchup. This is really a case of my deck is tuned to beat Persist, and this is a deck that has very few mutual my opponent's deck is one that has very few mutual weaknesses with Persist, and so as a result, you're kind of seeing the rock paper scissors sort of struggle that I'm going up into, where I've thrown down rock expecting scissors and now I'm staring down paper. Twilight Ambush is really awkward. They do have some a handful of creatures that do die to this. A lot of almost everything they have that dies to Dishonor dies to Twilight Ambush, but of course they have ways to give their creatures +1/+1 counters. And Twilight Ambush, notably does not work with Heroes Never Die, doesn't work with the AG, so that can become somewhat of a problem. The other issue is just that Twilight Ambush can't do anything about their three scariest creatures, which are Viridian, Behemoth, and Mikal. Behemoth and Mikal, almost none of our removal can really do anything meaningful about them, but Viridian, our other removal can at least somewhat cause some trouble. For a 3-mana 3/3, that means that Succumb to History can clear it, can exile Viridian, though unfortunately we have to spend 3 mana to do so. Dishonor shrinks Viridian down to a 2/1, which is much easier stats to fight. All of our small creatures, Grant Harbingers, can suddenly block profitably, or pretty profitably with Harbinger trading and then going to find another copy. Minion, if we ever have to block with it, can trade with a Dishonored Viridian, which is kind of appropriate with them hailing from the same set. But yeah, Twilight Ambush not being able to deal with their top end is really awkward. It also can't deal with a recently cast Elemental of Surprise, which is true of Succumb to History, and there is our opponent. So that is enough theory talk. I am going to flag commentary. Minion versus Naya, Eternal GP winner 2023. Yeah, I'm nervous about this matchup. Just kind of flying that by my opponent, because I think it is a funny joke, but I don't want to run it out if my opponent thinks it's a little tasteless. If you're looking for the most clickbaity title. Alrighty. I do not know how to feel here. Worried, I think, is the answer. I think I feel worried. Voidmist Prodigy is something I have to be very aware of. I think it is really going to be tricky here, because I need to be aware of my ability to use this as a defensive resource, pad my life total, have a death touch blocker, versus its capacity to kill my opponent. Opponent rolls a 10, rolled a 2. So one of the things that I do in my playtesting, when I'm playtesting against opposing decks, is I play every game from the draw, because in matchups like this, I want to think about it as I want it to be as breakneck as possible. And if I can beat my opponent when they have the first opportunity to do something, then I feel much more comfortable. Looking at this opening hand, this is going to be maybe a Dishonor on 1 if there is Symbol of the Revolution. Otherwise, I am going to just play New Divide tapped. I do have a reason to want to get Swamp, but I probably New Divide and crack it after my draw step, after this untaps, to try and get... Oh, opponent is mulliganing, to try and get more information, see if I can draw land on turn 2. But otherwise, Dishonor with Heroes Never Die and Yeji, that's a lot of removal potential for the early game. And then I've got Phoenix's Confidant, Void Mist Prodigy here. I'm going to keep. Okay. Opponent keeps 6. Would love to see a turn 1 Symbol of the Revolution here, because everything my opponent does that I can just pick off of their board works for me. All right, so they're just choosing what to put on the bottom. Confidant or Void Mist is an interesting conversation to have here, because Void Mist is going to develop the ability to Heroes Never Die it later. Same with the AG. Opponent goes to first main. We have begun. Words. That's a symbol. I did say this is what I wanted. So we will take our first draw. That is another Phoenix's Confidant. That makes me feel more comfortable running that out on turn 2, unless there's something I really want to Heroes Never Die here. We're going to Swamp. We're going to Dishonor that. And that is exiled. This is not a matchup where that particularly matters, but this just being repeatable removal is still relevant. One thing I want to pull up real quick is I've been thinking about this shell a bit and thinking about Pull of Tizerus, which is another black enchantment that does something very similar. Obviously, Dishonor, the point here is that it exiles, but Pull of Tizerus is nice just for, like, this is more removal that cares about devotion, sits in play. Opponent goes for Elvish Witness here. Spectators, let me know they did not have the password. That is my bad. Opponent thinking about Surveil. Do not love this to hear that, because that means that they have good options. Something I think I need to consider here is just using Heroes Never Die as a kill Elvish Witness, keep them from just jamming a Wilderkin Behemoth here, because, as mentioned, Wilderkin Behemoth is a huge problem for me. Though maybe I just develop a Confidant, or even the Void Mist Prodigy. I think I maybe just still develop the Confidant. Because so one of the things I'm thinking about here is Heroes Never Die, I can use to get the Dishonor back to try and buy time. Or I can Confidant. They've been both. Interesting. Justiciar, Overseer, Crystal Lion, both out of here. I think, making my call here, I think Overseer is really good against us. I think they're mana screwed. I think they bottomed a non-land card, kept a 2-lander, and saw 2 non-land cards on the top. We're both on 23 lands. I'm going to Heroes Never Die this Elvish Witness and take them off of 3 mana. Because if my opponent draws and passes their turn without making a land drop, we have made the correct play. So we'll untap. We'll draw. That's a minion. Not the most exciting draw here. I'd much rather have drawn a land. But we are going to shock in the New Divide. View library. Let's go get the planes. And let us Heroes Never Die. And we're not even going to give them the opportunity to go to their upkeep and do this on their turn. We're not going to do anything funky. Revealing Dishonor off the top and 2 Void Mist Prodigies. Awkward. We are dishonoring Elvish Witness. Choosing the one from our library rather than the one in our graveyard, because this gives us more Yeji fodder moving forward. Don't love seeing the Void Mist Prodigies both going to the bottom, but we do have the one in hand, and that means that that's 2 cards that aren't lands going to the bottom, because we're currently in the same pit that our opponent is. They draw, they don't immediately drop a land. They do drop a land. Oh. Either that was their draw and I took a risk, or that was in their hand already and I made a miscalculation. But I think, seeing as how they did nothing on this turn... Interesting. Why would they do nothing on their turn? They could have gone for Speaker of On, Elvish Witness, Cyber's Clan Arbiter, Crystalline, or Symbol of the Revolution, but they didn't play any of those. I think they're holding up a Ferocious Flame. I could Void Mist Prodigy, because they can respond in Ferocious Flame this. But I don't know. I could also New Divide, shock it, crack it, go get a swamp, and then go Minion into Confidant before they can Ferocious Flame the Minion, so I get some value. I like that. Let's shock this in. Let's crack this. Let's get the swamp. Let's go for Minion. This is either Ferocious Flame or they have no 1-3 drops. I think the 1-3 drop situation is the worst case scenario, where they just like have no cheap plays right now. Let's go ahead and Confidant. We gain 1. They take 1. We'll go to end step, see if we get a Pharaoh Flame. That's a Pharaoh Flame on the Confidant. I think that is the correct play from our opponent here. We do have 7 white cards, as I have talked about in the deck tech. So Minion, not necessarily always just good for us. That is Dormant Peak. No 4-drop. You know what that tells me? That card in hand is McCall. Let's go ahead and untap and draw here. Dormant Temple. Interesting thing to think about here is... okay. Interesting thing to think about here is they could be holding up either of their 3-mana flash threats. I think we want to just play things super safe. So this Minion is not going into the red... Minion could go into the red zone here. Could go into the red zone and be our, like, immediate attacker. But I think it is better for me to go Dormant Temple, Confidant, Void Mist Prodigy, and then I get to guarantee... Or no, I don't get to guarantee the draw on Confidant. Maybe that means I just go for Yeji. I think that means I just go for Yeji. We are going to develop the Dormant Temple, tap 3, Yeji. Because this gets this in play now. And the Confidant wasn't going to be drawing us a card this turn anyways, because it is just Devotion less than, or mana value less than Devotion. We get Yeji in play. We are just going to pass. Show me the Elemental of Surprise. Show me the Justiciar, Overseer. Neither. Okay. This is a tense match all around. They draw, they don't immediately gem their land. I'm still holding strong on my theory that they're holding McCall here. They just pass. Whew. Not frightening in the least. I untap and draw. That is another Void Mist Prodigy. So that represents a potential 9 damage right now. I want to go Confidant, Prodigy, sack the Prodigy, Yeji trigger, get back Confidant. Confidant, Minion trigger. They take 1, I gain 1. I could also look at getting back New Divide, but I think right now I just want to... I think I just want to get back the Confidant. I think I just want to get the card draw engine rolling. 1, 2. Void Mist Prodigy. Yeji targeting Confidant. Minion targeting opponent. This is tense. This is very tense, but having the double Confidant is nice here. So we gain 1. We clone the Confidant. Sanitation to token. And exile this. Any response to enter trigger. Right. I'm going to sack the Void Mist Prodigy and go back to 20. And they've done nothing for 2 turns here. I'm just going to pass the turn. They've been holding up this mana. No Wilderkin. They can't crack Dormant Peak. That's Ferocious Flame or Elemental of Surprise here. That's Ferocious Flame on Minion, I think. Heartbreaking, honestly. I almost wonder if you just Pharaoh Flame the Confidant token. Yeah. As I was saying it. Yeah, the Confidant token gets gone here. So they had the Pharaoh Flame. And they're taking another one for Elemental of Surprise. Figured as much. And I think this means they are hoping, gunning even, for a top deck Mikal to jam for 6 lifelink here in the air. That is the nightmare scenario here. That's a tapped land, and they pass. I think we have to hope that this card in hand is Mikal. So we untap. Oh, I am having a little bit of lag. We draw. Cityscape's awkward. Cityscape means we are not getting the double shots here with amping it up this turn. We're going to go ahead and play the Cityscape, because it does still get us to 5 lands for Dormant Temple. I think we go swinging here, and Yeji trigger, we use Dishonor to kill Elemental of Surprise. Talking through lines here, if Wilderkin Behemoth is the card in hand, I see no reason why they wouldn't play it there. I think they do not have Wilderkin Behemoth. If they were banking on an untapped land for Mikal, they got unlucky, and we're going to benefit from this and just kill the Elemental of Surprise, hit them for 6. If the last card in their hand is a Justiciar Overseer or an Elemental of Surprise, Elemental gets to eat Confidant or Diabolical Minion, while Justiciar gets to eat 2. But we get to clear the Elemental of Surprise, and if they have Mikal, we need to clear the Elemental of Surprise now. I think we have to take this gamble. We could look at cracking Dormant Temple now, because if we find Twilight Ambush or we find Dishonor, the puzzle becomes much simpler. And either one of those, Twilight Ambush or Dishonor, then lets us draw off of Finax's Confidant. I think we actually crack Dormant Temple here. I think we do this before anything else. We get the okay from our opponent. We draw Smirk. The one reason why we shouldn't have left the planes up. Oh, punished beyond belief here on that choice of tapping. We're going to go ahead and hold on to both of these, though, because I think there's a chance we redevelop Cityscape pitch this Void Mist Prodigy, honestly. Don't love it, but there is a consideration for it. We're going to go to combat. I think we're going to turn sideways and kill and use Dishonor here. Oh. Thinking. I think what they're thinking about is whether or not to crack Dormant Peak in response here. Because one of the nice things here is, if I understand correctly, Yeji's just going to slip Dishonor on this Elemental immediately. Good to go to attacks, yeah. We declare Yeji. Okay, so our opponent was thinking about, like, do they let us go to attacks? All right. Yeah, because if they were holding Ferocious Flame, they could try and do stuff before attacks. I wonder if this means that they are sitting on Ferocious Flame and me rushing to combat. Yep. So Dishonor is exiled. Exile the Elemental. And our opponent takes 6. That's how we wrote it up. Other consideration here, we could play the Void Mist Prodigy and not sack something to... Oh, actually, we could play the Void Mist Prodigy and burn them for 4 here. No, we don't play the Void Mist Prodigy here. Because they're at 7. We hold the Void Mist Prodigy because they are on the back foot. They're at 7 life. We have Void Mist in hand, Void Mist in graveyard. We can go... If they have the Ferocious Flame, they can keep us from getting it on attack. I think we redevelop Cityscape pitch Smirk. It's crazy to say that out loud, but I think we Cityscape pitch Smirk. We're seeing tap 5 for Mikal. You should be at 6. Every point matters right now. This feels obscene to me to even be remotely thinking about here. We're going to crack Cityscape pitch Smirk. Oh, this feels stupid. This feels so stupid. Okay, but I think, you know, this is going to maximize our odds of double spelling here. We needed the more mana. Smirk was not going to be able to double spell very effectively. In fact, Smirk was incapable of double spelling next turn. So, important things that this does here. This gets us to Ancient, so a draw of Succumb to History is now an out. Actually, wait, no, we just have it. What am I freaking out about? If they have Ferocious Flame, they don't have the mana for it. Let's get Swamp to play tapped, Mountain to hand. Okay. I'm okay. We draw the Heroes Never Die anyways. Void Mist Prodigy. And they should see the writing on the wall. Yeah, we just put this in the bin. I'm not going to show them that I top decked the kill. I'm going to go to combat and turn sideways, and Yeji is going to get the Void Mist. Yeah! Okay, that was not a game I thought I would have a good shot of winning the first game on. So as talked about, I don't think they have a very good sideboard plan against us, but mostly because their main deck is already good against us. I think we got really lucky on our opponent stumbling there, and I kind of read them like a book. I kind of figured out they were sitting on McCall, and that my plays just needed to be keep McCall from swinging this game in their favor. And sure enough. One of the nice things about Yeji plus Dishonor is Yeji getting first strike on your turn does make it where Dishonor keeps McCall from profitably blocking Yeji, and in fact, Yeji getting blocked by McCall is in our favor. So that's something nice to think about there. As far as the sideboard goes, the first place that my mind was at was Ray's Rampage is real awkward. I do like Rays in this deck as a 2-of, but I think in this particular matchup, Rays does represent some damage with Void Mist Prodigy, but Yeji does apply pressure on our graveyard in terms of eating the things that are in our graveyard long term. And also, I think if we're looking for ways to trim slots for sideboard cards, Rays has to go. And I think if we're not playing Rays Rampage, we're actually going down to 22 lands and boarding out the mountain, because that mountain is only there for Rampage. Otherwise, it is not good at casting a good handful of our spells. We can't cast Minion, we can't cast Dishonor with it, we can't cast Twilight Ambush off of it, and we can't cast one of our sideboard cards, which is Transgress Identity, off of it. I like Identity exactly for scenarios like that game where we just had, where I feel like I'm pretty good at predicting what my opponent could have in hand, what I need to be most worried about based on their play patterns. So I think Transgress Identity is really good. I think one of the things that match shows is the 4 of Memory Hostage was a bad call. I think in combo matchups, I'm not sure I get the leeway to Memory Hostage and just take their combo pieces. And the problem is in fair matchups like this, where I'm worried about Lothric and Behemoth, I'm worried about McCall, worried about these things that are really hard for me to deal with. In theory, that should be my Memory Hostage target, but the reality is they're going to apply so much pressure, I will not have time to Memory Hostage. And making matters worse is that Viridian taxes Memory Hostage, and you know what else taxes Memory Hostage? The Henrys in their sideboard that they might be bringing in. So we're going to go up the Transgress Identities, and we're going to go up 3 Event Horizon here, and that puts us at 62 instead of 60, because we're also going down Smirk. I like Smirk. I think they're good in a lot of matchups. I think in this matchup in particular, that forced draw and loss of life, doing a thing we want to be doing, which is amping it up, makes our deck a lot more of a liability. We're able to reasonably consistently trigger Smirk, but in this matchup where our life total is sacred and our ability to be ahead of our opponent in the tight value game that I am bracing myself for, I think Smirk is a liability. And as you saw there in that particular endgame scenario, Smirk not being able to comfortably be double spelled was part of why I had to pitch them to the redeveloped cityscape. So let's go ahead and fire things off here. Okay. That is a rough opening hand. Gates to the Underworld, one of our 3 always tapped lands, alongside Double Succumb, Double Heroes Never Die, Phoenix's Confidant, and Minion. So I'm going to mulligan, but I'm going to wait for my opponent to indicate what they're doing first, because they are on the play. I'm trying to think from my opponent's perspective. They're keeping. Not like this. Come on, deck. That's going to be a mull to 5, I think. Yeah, double Yeji, double Heroes, another 1-lander. This is a reasonable 5. Gloomcover Step, Swamp, Dormant Temple is fine. I don't love bottoming the Event Horizon, but I think we got to bottom the Event Horizon. Then it becomes a question of Heroes Never Die or the 3rd land. So this is always sticking around. We're going to let our opponent know we're keeping 5. We're always getting rid of the Event Horizon here. I do like it, but I think this is just not a matchup for it. We're going to get rid of the Dormant Temple, I think, over the Heroes Never Die. Shock in, New Divide. Oh, no. Oh, that's holding up Ferocious Flame. I think we still go for Minion. I think we want them to just lock themselves into getting the mountain here and lock themselves into Ferocious Flame. Void Mist is nice. They're going Minion. Show me the Pharaoh Flame. Cracking, finding a mountain. Finding the mountain. Only one of mountain. Yeah. Because red is the least relevant color in their deck, and they have a lot more green and white spells than red spells. I am perfectly fine with this. This gets the Ferocious Flame out. They have 2 left that they could have, and that is all that they have as far as target removal goes. Otherwise, they just have to beat us with board presence. Dormant Clearing hurting them every time they need green or white mana. Oh no, Cyber's Clan Arbiter. So that's going to name Heroes Never Die every time. Reveal hands to all players, and I'm going to keep this open for a while so I can manage what my opponent does and doesn't know. So we are going to see, yeah, Heroes Never Die. What a shocker. Untap, draw, New Divide. That is perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and Gloomcover Step and run out the 2-mana 2/1 that just trades with Cyber's Clan Arbiter. One unfortunate thing about boarding out Smirk is we no longer have legendary permanents to put into play off of Heroes Never Die, so this no longer can gain us 2 life. One of the nice things about Smirk with Heroes Never Die is that it does provide us a way to gain a bit of life to offset the damage Smirk will inevitably do, but it's just still a liability in this matchup. What you thinking about? What you thinking about, opponent? Is that them thinking about not having a 3rd land? Did they keep a 2-lander? God, I hope they kept a 2-lander. And kept it off the back of one of their big creatures that they know just beats me. Would love to be handed this game. I don't think I'm getting handed this game, though. I think they're just choosing which lands to play and what 3-drop to hold up or play. Yeah, they're thinking. I am still very pleased to see Dormant Clearing be their 2nd land, though, here. All of their green and white spells costing them life is going to be relevant in this matchup. Up until they get a Viridian with a lifelink gadget, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. And I would like to win some right now. If it has not been evident by me going so deep on Eternal content in preparation for this tournament, Eternal is the Revolution event that I get the most excited for, just because I think it is the most complex pool of cards that this format has to deal with. So it introduces the most complex puzzles in terms of deck building and strategy, which is not to say that regular Revolution isn't complex. I think it is a very fun, fascinating format, which is part of why I get so much joy out of participating in it. And one of the things that is very, very interesting is because Eternal comes with all of these complexities, there's so many more lines you have to be ready for than normal. And that's part of why, you know, you find yourself with certain deck building strategies, why you find a meta shaking up the way it does, why you see something like my deck, where it is very honed in against a particular matchup that I wanted to be good at because I figured there'd be a lot of it. And there are 2 players on it. And that's a Plains with an Elemental of Surprise. Getting in for 3? Is that the only thing getting in here? I have to assume it's the only thing getting in here. Can't tell if they're waiting for me to give them the okay, or if they're wondering if they can attack with the Cyber's Clan Arbiter safely here. The answer is no, they can't. But I don't know if our opponent knows that. Yeah, no, I'm not blocking that. Never in a million years am I blocking that. Interesting choice to make here, which is looking at the Heroes Never Die and weeping because this is keeping us off of Heroes Never Die. So never mind about that choice. Please top deck Twilight Ambush or the... that's not Twilight Ambush or Dishonor. Well, you know what they say. New Divide tapped. Void Mist. Pass. No sack. We want this 1/1 Death Toucher right now. Just caught wind of a conversation happening in the Rev general chat. People are brewing Esper Tempo. Is very interesting. Yeji in conjunction with the one-drop cantrip suite, as well as Research Grant and Scrapyard Mecha, which is very cool. Crystal Lion, that's a 3/2 first striker with Vigilance and Trample. They're choosing the treasure. That tells me they do not have their 4th land. Nope, never mind. I am wrong. They are just using it for a 2-drop here. Another Cyber's Clan Arbiter just to tax us out of Heroes Never Die. Yep. So this is going to be uncastable. I am cracking this at upkeep for sure. And I am throwing a fit if I draw another Heroes Never Die here. Yep, Heroes Never Die. And they have their first strike hasters. They're getting in for 6. Man, Elemental Surprise is such a good card. Uh, yeah, just take 3 because it looks like they're only doing the Crystalline. Cool. Yeah, I'll take that. I'm glad they're not exposing that Cyber's Clan Arbiter to the damage I don't have. Absolutely will take that. What I would love to draw here is Transgress Identity on Wilderkin Behemoth, I think. And if they have Nicole, we just weep. Untap, upkeep, crack. View library. Let's go get a Plains, I think. And draw. There's the Twilight Ambush. Ambush the Elemental Confidant trigger. I will draw a card and lose 1 life. And hit another Phoenix's Confidant. Let's play the Swamp. And play out the Confidant. We can just close this. We know they know about the Heroes Never Die. There's 2 things taxing it. And we'll pass there. Removal for the Elemental of Surprise is definitely a nice consolation there if we can't just guarantee our safety and take out whatever was in their hand. There was an argument for Transgress Identity being boarded in, and I thought about it a bit, but I think mana efficiency really is my best shot at dealing with what my opponent has going on. They're going to go ahead and symbol and pass, reinforcing for me that I think they have Mikal in their hand. We're going to untap and draw. That's Dishonor. Oh, Dishonor's so good with that draw that they had there. Dishonor. Targeting symbol. And they can burn their mana here, but they shouldn't. And I will draw 2. This goes away. Let's go ahead and we definitely played that swamp last turn. Let's go ahead and play the swamp and hold up the event horizon. Because one of the things that is interesting is McCall does price out event horizon. Or sorry, McCall does get dealt with by event horizon should they have 5 non-land permanents. We're just going to keep passing. I think if they have no like immediate threat here, I event horizon the Cybreeze Clan Arbiter so I can Heroes Never Die next turn. I'm going to get this popped out just for Heroes Never Die because we are approaching that point. And notably, every black spell we draw is Finnex Confidant triggers. Unless they have Ferocious Flame here, but they have played one. They're spending 2 mana here. They're not spending 2 mana here. Maybe they don't have McCall. Maybe they were about to spend 2 mana, but they were looking at instead spending 3. Oh, that's Viridian. Enters. When she enters, just gonna give the K. I think it may genuinely be in my best interest to Event Horizon the First Strike gadget over Viridian. It feels so weird to say that, but I think that might genuinely be in my best interest. Because one of the things that is important about that gadget is it does just let them start chipping in every turn. If I clear that gadget now, their cost increase effect off of Viridian is gone. And their ability to get value out of Viridian post-mortem by giving their creatures first strikes so that way combat math becomes a nightmare is gone with it. I'm going to Event Horizon the gadget. They are going to tap a red. You can't Ferocious Flame in response here. Yeah, because yeah, they realized. So they were, I think, looking. I think that tells me they might be holding on Ferocious Flame. Interesting. Untap. Draw. That is a Transgress Identity. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to tap a red. Or, not a red, tap a black for Transgress Identity. I'm going to say good to resolve Confidant triggers. Because my opponent's been kind of jumping the gun on seeing my Confidant triggers. I'm going to take 1, draw, take 1, draw. That is a Succumb to History. McCall the Anointed is the card in question. 2 ends in Anointed, not 3. Wilderkin Behemoth. Oh, lost the 50-50. Yeah. Rough. So I will lose 1 and draw and pick up the Event Horizon. Unfortunate. I've got Succumb, I've got the Event Horizon. Still checking. That Swamp came into play last turn. Let's go ahead and play this one. That does mean our next land is Ancient territory. We are going to just go ahead and pass the turn here. This Behemoth is a problem. That is to be sure. I think we're at a point where we need to stop taking draws off of Confidant. Maybe. I don't know. This is hard. Because Succumb to History can draw us 2 cards here, but that puts us to 6. If I'd named Wilderkin Behemoth. I maybe should have even thought about naming Wilderkin Behemoth just because I had the Succumb in hand at that point. So I knew I was 1 land away from Ancient anyways. So McCall wasn't the biggest problem. Yeah, that was just straight up a misplay. Oh well. This has been a rough game anyways. Mull to 5. Mull to 5, sitting 8 to 14, and I feel like this is closer than it should have been. And I've made some weird plays. I Event Horizon the Viridian equipment over Viridian. That I gotta hand it to my opponent. Them tapping the secluded farmland felt weird to me. And really clicked in my brain of like, maybe they're just holding up Ferocious Flame and realized they can't in response to Viridian being targeted. Or in response to the equipment being targeted, because they think like Viridian's being gone and they're gonna try and respond to that. I don't know what they were doing there, but it psyched me out, that's for sure. You get a thinking from our opponent. They're thinking of Wilderkin Behemoth as the most important thing to develop here. Into 5 open mana. I think the most likely outcome here is going to be I'm just going to Succumb to History Viridian. No, I'm going to Succumb to History of an Arbiter and Event Horizon and Arbiter. They're going to combat. They're turning Viridian sideways. They are turning everything sideways. On attacks before blocks. White, black, fire off an Event Horizon. Targeting codename Viridian. Because you've got 4 non-land permanents. Viridian exiled. Succumb to History on the Crystal Lion. Confidant triggers. All right, yeah. If they're exiling, then I'm good to life, draw. Right now, thinking on second Confidant. So Gates is tapped. If I block, they go Wilderkin Behemoth. I have Void Mist versus Behemoth. That is I block, take 4 down to 3. And If they have Justiciar Overseer in hand here, this is potentially really bad for me. I didn't even think about Justiciar. I just thought about, like, trample damage and preserving the Void Mist on board. Okay, so Justiciar in hand, they play Behemoth. Then following turn, they go Behemoth Swing. Justiciar has Void Mist's damage go to me instead of Behemoth. I go to 1 because I take 5. And then I'm staring down Behemoth. I think I lose to Behemoth anyways if that's the plan here. So I need to draw. That is a Dormant Temple. I am never tapping that for mana right now. And then Succumb resolves. Good to go to blocks. Put the 2/1s in front of the 2/2s. If they do not have the Overseer for this, I'm fine with it. This 1 gates to the Underworld could be huge here. Yep, Wilderkin Behemoth. All right. We will untap. We will draw. That is another Void Mist Prodigy here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to combat. I'm going to turn this Void Mist Prodigy to the side. They get in. Main 2. Black, black. Void Mist Prodigy. Sack the one that's tapped. Gain 3, deal 3. Gates to the Underworld tapped. And we pass. So, not the end of the world. I think right now, if they have Justiciar Overseer or they have Ferocious Flame for Void Mist Prodigy, I'm going to Heroes Never Die in response and get the other Void Mist out of our graveyard, eat the one that's being targeted, or the one that's blocking. We declare this block. Is it the Justiciar? Okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another Wilderkin. Oh, another Wilderkin. We're going to pay 2, and Heroes Never Die. The Void Mist back out. Or hold on, let's look at what's at the top. 1, 2, 3. Granite Harbinger, Gloomcover Step, Gloomcover Step. Happy to see all of those go to the bottom. So, thinking here. So, if I... Because they took another one from their dormant clearing here. If I... If I sack here, they go to 5, I go to 8. I could swing this hard. But no one card wins me the game. And I would need to crack Dormant Temple for Heroes Never Die, Heroes Never Die. I would need to draw step here, get Heroes Never Die, and then get it again on the draw from here, from Dormant Temple. I think that is a gamble I cannot afford to take. No sack. I will untap, and I will draw. Glad I didn't take that gamble. Let's Dormant Temple, pay a black, crack it, draw a card. There's one. So same situation as before. This currently costs 5 to activate, so we have the mana for it. Okay. We're not out of this. We're just gonna pass. That's a Plains. Bad because they can crack the Dormant Clearing. Nightmare scenario here is they have Elemental of Surprise, I think. Actually, not necessarily a nightmare, because I just animate the gates to the underworld, block the elemental, eat the Wilderkin Behemoth, go to 4. Because I take 4, gain 3. So I'm actually not that upset to see an Elemental of Surprise here. I think Justiciar Overseer is worse, actually. Not saying that out loud. That's 1, 2. Speaker of On. Not the worst, not the best. Oh my god, this game has gone so long. Our opponent's just passing. Thinking on the pass step. Heroes Never Die can get back Dishonor to kill the Speaker of On. It can get back Void Mist Prodigy if we just want to push some damage. Or develop a Death Toucher. Diabolical Minion if we want to just full gamble on hitting relevant spells. Okay. If we HND here, I think we get Dishonor to clear the Speaker of On. No, because if this was Ferocious Flame, they would have fired it. Right? Let's fire off the HND. Cutting the Raise Rampage, hurting here. Swamp, Yeji. No, Yeji is exactly what we wanted to draw here. So these are going to bottom. Good to not draw the lands. The lands not getting drawn here is good, because that Yeji was 3 cards down. We can Dishonor the Speaker of On. We don't Dishonor the Speaker of On. We're just going to Void Mist Prodigy, trade life totals. Move to bottom. Put Heroes Never Die in the graveyard. Sacrifice to shoot for 3. And gain 3. Because we do have something that blocks the Speaker of On with the gates to the underworld. Untap. Draw. That's a Succumb to History. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To animate the gates. Am I really about to to shock in New Divide to hold up Succumb to History, put myself to 6 in this precarious board state. I think I am. It's kind of unhinged that I'm saying this, but I think I am shocking in New Divide right now. One, two, three, four, five. This feels so risky, but this lets me hold up both. I hate that. I hate that so much. I have 2 Void Mist, 2 Heroes Never Die that I can draw as burn over the top. Otherwise, this is going to a game 3 on a very long match. Goodness gracious, this match is tense. I think what I want to see here is McCall the Anointed. I want to see McCall the Anointed. I want to see Elemental of Surprise. I want to see Speaker of On turning sideways. They're not going to turn Speaker sideways. They see the gates. They're starting combat. I didn't need to shock in the New Divide. I'm a fool. I forgot that this thing would be able to tap for mana. That's a punishment on my part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thinking. I'm so tense right now. I swear to God, if the two life is going to matter here before blocks. Pharaoh Flame, the gates. Succumb the Speaker of On to History. Gates down. Pharaoh Flame 2 down. I think that was a misplay. Right? Because they let blocks here. I take 4, gain 3. No, because I go to 5. Make the block. Good lord. This game's so tense. We're just cracking this now. View library. Find. Let's get the planes. I should not have shocked in the New Divide, though. That was definitely a misplay on my part. Draw. Confidant. Thing to consider here. Do I hold Confidant for Yeji? If I hold Confidant for Yeji, Justiciar... Well, Justiciar kills me anyways, so... 4 in 43 chance that they have the kill in hand already. In terms of Justiciar. Elemental of Surprise would have killed me there. So that's another 3. Elemental kills me off the top. I need to pass. Yeji is how I get out of this at this point, and it is not going to work if I don't have a spell to play alongside Yeji. And they didn't kill me on end step, so they didn't have the Justiciar. They have... Viridian can kill me. Elemental can kill me. So hypothetically, that's 6 draws that kill me, 7 including the Ferocious Flame. And none of those kill me if I don't shock in that Nudified. Oh no, not the third! Anything but the third Wilderkin! Ah. Oh. That is so rough. We will untap, draw, Minion. Is not going to cut it. Yeah, shocking the Nudify does not matter against specifically Wilderkin, Behemoth, and or Mikal, but yeah, this was just so rough. They say, no idea how I'm winning game 3. Yeah, honestly, I think them being a turn ahead of me is part of why I struggle so much against them. I don't know how this game plays on the play, in all honesty. It's the downside of my testing strategy. So, Event Horizon, Transgress Identity. Transgress, still very good. Event Horizon, still very good. Is there anything else in the deck that I want to trim? Maybe we could stand to go down a Confidant, but Confidant is very good, and I don't want to go down too many creatures. Don't want to go down too many permanents, especially because the Confidant is still very important, both for contributing devotion to each other and giving me creature hits off of Heroes Never Die. Because right now I have 16 creature hits plus 4 enchantments. I have 20 hits on Heroes Never Die in the deck. That is a that is a 1 in 3. 1/3 of my deck is Heroes Never Die hits. As opposed to slightly above that with the Smirks. I was feeling the absence of Raise Rampage there, though. Folks are leaving. Oh, it's just us now. Yeah, I was feeling the loss of Raise Rampage there. So I think we go back up on those. Smirk, I think, is fine to have out over the Transgress there. Maybe... Oh, hey, Stasis is back. Maybe we do go down the Twilight Ambushes. I don't know. This is tricky. I think we're going to go down to 2 Event Horizons. Gonna go down to Twilight Ambush. Maybe we do go down the Confidant. We're gonna go down the second Twilight Ambush. Because if I'd had those Raise Rampages, I think everything that I drew that game was important. I'll play. This is not a crazy blistering start, but this is tapped land on 1, not knowing what they have going on. Into, I can like play Nudified tapped Dishonor on 2, or I can just Void Mist or Heroes Never Die. Probably not Heroes Never Die in the blind, but... This could grind pretty decently. It's just not really breakneck. I'm going to keep 7, though. Because this does get to answer some of their early plays. Going to main 1. We're both keeping 7. Gates tapped and pass. Farmland. Mistwreath Stones. Oof. Interesting. Did not think that was getting boarded in this matchup. Untap, draw. We draw the mountain naturally. I'm tempted to just fire off the Void Mist Prodigy, put pressure on them to Mistwreath Stones with my Heroes Never Die. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think what's interesting is, from my understanding, this is the first match of the GP to go to Game 3. Yeah, because out of 9 matches in the first round, 6 of them have already been played, and all of them have been 2-0s, with one of the players just taking the match pretty handily, from the sound of things. Although it doesn't mean that those matches were all, like, easy. It sounds like some of those matches were absolutely close. Nail biters. Did not have the privilege of getting to watch them myself, but appealing all the same. Shock in Luxurious Estate. 2 mana. Fog Spewer. Interesting. I will untap and I will draw another land. Not what I needed, deck. Not what I needed at all. I'm going to play New Divide tapped here because I'm just going to dishonor the Fog Spewer for 2. This definitely makes me think they brought in Henry. I'm still really shocked by the Mistwreath Stones. I almost can't help but wonder, did they board out the Wilderkin Behemoth? Would be a mistake if they did. Planes? Did they board out Justiciar Overseers? Because I feel like it's one of their better cards against me. Elvish Witness. So far this tournament, I'm very glad I had the gates to the Underworld, even as just the one of. Because it did come up that last game, and it's getting a chance to come up this game. Just wish I had permanence in play to give this thing devotion. Binning a Speaker of On. Interesting. And a Dormant Clearing. Okay, they are flooding, and they do not want lands. Got it. Meaning maybe I leave this Elvish Witness alone. Untap, upkeep, crack New Divide, view library, swamp, and draw. Come on. I mean, I wasn't gonna be getting a basic anyways, but still. Gloomcover Step, and pass. 1 mana, crack Mistwreath Stones. I suppose it's fair to ask. Oh yeah, wait. Long time since I've played with against stones. I keep forgetting it is from the graveyard that you fire it off. It was what made it so good with Surveil. Made it so good in graveyard decks. You play it in a graveyard deck as a way to just sort of cash in once you've eaten your graveyard. Shock and New Divide. Interesting. Are they just going to drop McCall here? I am so sorry, all that this match has gone so long, that this video has gone so long. Hour 25 minute, hour 25 video so far, and we were like still just barely in game 3. Trust me, if it's agony for y'all, it is agony for me too. But I'm fighting my best, and as you've seen, sometimes games dragging on results in some misplays. Five mana for McCall the Anointed. Okay. On their end step, heroes never die. Revealing Succumb. No! If I'd drawn, I'd have hit Succumb to History, and I'd be 2 land drops away from McCall, killing McCall, and it wouldn't have mattered because this kills me anyways. We are going to get back Dishonor and Dishonor McCall and move these to the bottom. We're going to keep Graveyard open. Notably, Gates to the Underworld now costs 5 to animate. Untap and draw. That's something on the board. Swamp. Confidant. Pass. Don't feel super positive about where I'm at right now. Elemental Surprise is unfortunate, especially with Gates not being able to be up to block right now. So that's going to be 7 coming at me. 2, 4. Crystal Lion. Ooh. They mistapped a little bit. They didn't need to use Luxurious Estate for colored mana. Making a treasure. Oh no, you're not. I was gonna say you're not killing Phoenix's Confidant here, right? This is just such a nightmare scenario for me. This is the answer to my opponent's question of how do I kill, how do I win game 3? This is how. This is also, I believe, how this deck did so well at the November GP. So that is 9 plus 4, 13, take me to 10. 13, take me to 10. So this is game. This is absolutely just the game. Added all Massacres and sideboard would have been nice for this particular matchup. Something I should have thought about, but I didn't. And I'm paying the price for it. Draw. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm real tempted to reveal my hand and just call it. Because this was just a profoundly unfortunate draw here. Yeah, this Confidant is the only non-land card I drew this entire game. Let's just go ahead and crack this. uh, so that is 10 lands in the top 14. Oh, the heartbreak. Well, unfortunate folks, that's just how it gets drawn up sometimes. At least it means this is a quick end to a very long video. Bummer to start off the GP this way, but we are not out yet. 2 losses disqualifies you from top cut. Just means we're gonna have to fight that much harder through the rest of these rounds. And let's get a persist opponent next round, please. Probably unlikely. One of the 2 persist players has won their first round, and the other one is playing tomorrow and probably likely to win theirs. But oh well. We take these. See you next round, folks.